apologize to those people who've already seen this presentation, but it's going to be so much better because Graham will be here to give you all the real stuff. And it's wonderful because some of our absolute favorite people are here, including Terrell, who designed our first home and several of the other ones, and Tim, to whom we owe so much. Without Tim, Rammed Earth would not exist in this province. All right. So we're, Graham's going to say something.
I don't know. I'm trying to.
Graham's always going to say
I'm trying
something.
to see how much of the presentation I can just do with my eyes. Anyway, for those of you who have never seen Rammed Earth, you're going to see a whole bunch of images of it. This is just a general view of it, and each of these are individual lifts that are individually compressed, and it acts as one cohesive sandstone wall. We're going to get into a lot more detail, but this is some Rammed Earth.
Enjoy.
I think if you just click.
So it is just click? Oh, maybe you'll do the clicking.
I think so.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you to come along with us on an imaginative journey to imagine what the perfect house would be. And I have to say that Paula has already told you. So just pay attention. You'll see it in action here as we go. One of the things that we've noted is that when people come to us, they generally have one of two agendas in mind. Either, like myself, they want to build the most sustainable house that they possibly can, or they say, "Ooh, that's pretty. Could you make me some pretty stuff?" To be honest, we've known forever, since humans started building, that beauty is as important to the structure as anything else. And no matter what you do, if it's not beautiful, it's not going to last. The sustainability for Rammed Earth comes more from the fact that it's going to last. Touch?
There you go.
Oh, hey, I did it.
See, we work well as a team. So at this point, you've seen three images of Rammed Earth. How is my volume? I'm not Mike. Generally, that's okay for a room this size. Thank you. Getting lots of thumbs. Perfect. So you've seen three images of Rammed Earth. The makeup of those have been the same as far as how they function structurally, but the aesthetics are all in sort of the vision of the client, the vision that we help create, and the vision that we obviously bring to the forefront. The first one we had, very wavy, more of a red scale, kind of that Sedona look, Arizona feel. The middle one, very artistic, some purples to it, a lot of flowing over top of each other. And this one, grayscale, very flat, and then just a singular color to kind of add that accent piece to it. So the way that we create that art, we'll go a lot more into detail later in the presentation, but we have a really good conversation with the client and say, what's the general vision? What are you wanting the Rammed Earth to look like? We ask them to give as many Rammed Earth images from the internet as they can. And then I play a fun little game to be like, oh, 6 out of 10. I've built 6 out of 10 of the things that you want me to build for you. Fantastic. Anyway, so all jokes aside, this is the way that we create it. And then once we have a palette that we're working within and a general idea as to what we want the waves to look like, then that's when we sort of, the creation of the physical art side comes through.
Sometimes the clients just give us a reference object. We had one who just held up, well, she didn't even hold it up because it was too big, a granite boulder that sat on the front lawn and said, could you match that? And they did it. So when we talk about a better quality of life, I think everybody in this room has a really good understanding of what that means. It means that you know that the natural elements that you're being surrounded by let you breathe better, let you feel better. You are experiencing that constant temperature, that constant humidity that lets you relax into the space. You know that you've got a solid wall at your back that is never going to go away, and it's going to be protecting you and just giving that sense, not just of solidity, but connection to the earth. There are so many aspects of living in rammed earth that I can't explain to too many groups. They look at me like I've got 3 heads, or they say, yeah, sure, you're just spouting a lot of words. You have to be in the space to experience it. And this refers back to the 2 presentations that we had this morning.
Other than obviously a really good hand model, which is clearly something we want to bring attention. Anyway, so the makeup of the walls is, it's not rocket science, it's just good building science. So there's an insulated rammed earth wall has 3 sections. There's the structural interior width of 8 inches, 6 inches of EPS insulation, and then 6 inches of rammed earth on the outside to act as a completely incorruptible rain screen and weather barrier on the outside. The walls are naturally airtight, and because of that fact, then we also have fiberglass rebar connecting the inner width and the outer width, which makes it thermally 2 separate walls, but functionally and structurally 1 wall that is 20 inches thick. So because there are no organic materials within the wall, there's no way that mold can grow. So it allows the air quality to, for the entire length of the home, remain absolutely beautiful, like breathing the outside air, because yet again, there's no mold and there's nothing added to the mix that's going to add any extra strain on your lungs.
No toxins. I'm going to anticipate the questions about the insulation, because Graham just slid that in there. EPS.
Can we just talk about it in the question period?
We will cycle back to this one. I just want to mention that you can put any kind of insulation in the middle of the rammed earth, and that is definitely a place that we hope to be going to.
Yeah, we've looked in, we are a small company. We are one of 1 rammed earth company in all of Ontario, so it's very difficult to...
Maybe 2. Is Evolve Builders still building rammed earth?
We are one of 1.5, possibly 2 rammed earth companies in all of Ontario. As such, like we have Tim, but Tim is 1 human being and his brain is infinitely large, but his time is infinitely small. So with that, we have a whole bunch of ideas as how to turn what we feel is the ideal product into an even more ideal product. Things like creating a cavity, doing blown-in cellulose, or something. There are many installations that could be used. We have yet to find clients adventurous and deep-pocketed enough for us to fully explore all of them, but that's not to say that we wouldn't love to try it. There are some resins that allow us to make the mix have even fewer ingredients, and anything that, like from a natural building perspective, we can cut out the cement aspect and as low as it is in what we do. So
yeah, okay.
I'm sounding like we're backpedaling and like, oh my God, but it's just like, if I had half of the budget that the concrete industry had, we could fully solve all these problems in about 3 weeks. But
yeah, okay. We all know that we want our buildings to be natural. And the reason for that is that nature has it down. As Paula told us so eloquently earlier, if we just paid attention to how nature does it, we could, all of our work is done. And in this case, all of the work is done by Graham building those walls. And at that point, you've created a natural material that does it all. It has that hygroscopic ability to regulate your humidity levels. It has thermal mass up the wazoo. This is, okay.
What's the technical term for wazoo?
And when we are in that space, you're experiencing that comfort level without thinking about it. And that's really what nature gives for you. You go out, you don't have to think about being in nature. It just gives you the comfort and the livability that you want. That's what we give you in a rammed earth home. You walk in, it feels comfortable. There's been nobody come into any of our houses who hasn't said, wow, this is really different. This is not what I was expecting. What is that feeling? Which is great. That's what you're going for.
Putting a little bit of ether through the ERV helps it as well. Sorry, just joking. That was a joke, obviously. Okay, we talked about thermal mass and wazoos and such. So this is a really good shot to show how the passive solar, proper south light reflects on the rammed earth walls. It retains that. It uses what's called the thermal flywheel effect to, no matter where on a rammed earth structure has absorbed that heat from the sun, it's going to distribute it through the whole rammed earth structure just by the way that it transfers the heat. And yet again, I'm positive I can explain passive solar heating half as well as 50% of people in the room, but the sun is low in the winter, and then as it gets higher in the summer, it reflects off of your wonderful Simple Life roof that is heavily insulated. Jeremy, shout out. And then, so with that, we find that our rammed earth homes function somewhere between 16 and 18 degrees year-round without any mechanical assistance, which means that the amount that you're looking to heat or cool is just such a small load that you're putting on it. Obviously, that coupled with proper air sealing tape from 475, shout out. Anyway, so it makes it a very easy envelope to create really a well-sealed envelope, because the rammed earth itself is airtight. You make sure that you have the proper connection detail at your windows, and then your proper connection detail at your roof. You obviously use a blower door to ensure that, and then you're able to walk away knowing that you've created a heavily insulated and fully airtight package every time.
And it does work the same in the summer as it does in the winter. So that thermal mass that's holding on to that heat and keeping it at 16 to 18 degrees is still keeping it at maybe 18, 19, 20 degrees in the heat of the summer, but it doesn't get above that. As long as you've got lovely passive ventilation, where you can open up and do a purge in the evening. And in Southern Ontario, we're looking at increasing heat events. Every heat event that we've gone through, we haven't really noticed. We had an open house. It was one of the tours a few years ago in the before time. And everybody came in, it was just one of those sweltering hot days. And everybody came in and said, oh, nice air conditioning. No air conditioning. And even if it cools down just a couple of degrees overnight, that's sufficient to cool down the rammed earth and let it keep working as a thermal mass unit to keep it cool or to keep it warm. The last open house we had
was actually in January, so sort of the opposite side, and people walked in and said, oh man, it's really toasty in here. It's like, well, actually, their heat pump broke 3 weeks ago, so thanks for the BTUs. It's going to be about 3 degrees warmer when you all leave. Appreciate the part, but it really is incredible. And another point too, you open the windows at night, because the rammed earth has hygroscopic qualities. The major thing in Ontario, it's not even necessarily the heat, it's the humidity. You let that humid air in, but because the rammed earth is taking the humidity out of it, it really allows for you to get the true temperature of the air, not just the humidex temperature of the air.
Yeah. This is the big sales feature for rammed earth as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be there for my children's 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 children. Children's children. We know that there are historical examples of raw rammed earth that are still functioning and existing. I'm thinking of the Alhambra Castle in Spain. I'm thinking of the Tulu. There are these round apartment buildings that have been continuously lived in for over 500 years, made of rammed earth. They've survived earthquakes, revolutions, literally bulletproof, this stuff. And that's, we've sort of updated it. We use pneumatic tampers instead of just having somebody hit it with something wooden. We know that we're creating a better compaction than the ancients were able to do. But we're still able to know because of that this is going to be around for a long, long time.
And obviously within that, just think of, everyone in this room is pretty aware of like the average life cycle of a typical code-built house right now is, 30 to 50 years if you're lucky. If that's a 500 to 1,000 year lifespan of a wall, my math isn't great, but I think you've saved a lot in a landfill. And yet again, that's also with the correct roof, with a 100 or 150 year roof put on it, windows that you can hopefully just update in 50 years by, reorganizing the glass rather than having to tear things out. We're talking about a shell that theoretically Sylvia's children's, which is only my children's, for the record, would not have to worry about. This is my mom. She's great, and I love her a whole bunch. Anyway, so
and when we do our yearly maintenance of washing the windows, we say, "Oh, look, we're tuning up the furnace."
Right. Yeah.
I love her because of her humor.
No, not at all.
This is also
Sorry, go back.
To go back, yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, I can't. How do I go back?
Well, you move the mouse and then you click. So this home right here is in Prince Edward County. Please let me know if you have any interest in coming and seeing. We have an open house for it on May 4th. It's loosely Star Wars themed, as in, like it's May 4th, so I encourage you to do Star Wars things, but it's not like on the invitation and people might look at you funny, but I won't. Anyway, so this particular home...
and he complains about my sense of humor.
I do. So all this, every other rammed earth image you've seen we've been adding iron oxides to the walls to create a more specific and color palette look. This is what raw rammed earth looks like. This is a limestone Prince Edward County.
Uncolored, not raw. We're still stabilized.
Colored raw. Raw color. Yeah, you're right. What she said. Anyway, so a beautiful design, really great home. So like I said, if you are interested in coming and doing a rammed earth open house, we'd love, the more the merrier. Love to have you come. Please give me a business card or some ability for us to send you the invitation for that. Just as a small thing.
Thanks.
That's going backwards.
Okay, I thought you were doing the clicking.
I didn't click.
This is our rammed earth studio. When I explained to my husband that we were going to build a rammed earth home, he said, "We're what?" Which is, 15 years ago, that was the kind of reaction that we got from people. Like, what? You're building with, did you say dirt? Yes. But it's going to be the best rammed earth music studio you've ever experienced. And he said, "Yeah, okay, sure." But it is, and even he acknowledges that now. These are the acoustic instruments, but as Graham will point out, it works just as well when you're all plugged in. He's the drummer, and just to the left of this picture, there is a full drum kit. And Graham, as you've noted, is not a quiet person. So his drumming is equally loud. And yet you can hear every individual instrument. I could be playing the piano that's in the other corner of the room. Somebody's singing. There are guitars plugged into amplifiers. And in most spaces, if you're not a musician, you may not get this. But generally speaking, you're in the place, somebody can't hear themselves, so they turn themselves up, and then somebody else did, and you got this wall of noise. That does not happen in our studio.
Shout out to Terrell though.
Yeah,
because
wait a
it's
second, where's my 8-degree angle?
yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to mention the 8-degree angle because it's hell to build, but one of the first things,
Very important.
Terrell rolled up in her motorcycle to the empty space and said, "So what do you see here?" And, well, okay, this, that, and the other. But I said, well, could we have non-parallel walls in the music studio? Because I'd been doing my research about, having promised Steve that I'd give him this fabulous music studio. And non-parallel walls came up on a number of occasions. I don't think we actually would have needed the non-parallel walls, but we have no way of going back and testing for that. So somebody else is going to have to build a parallel walled rammed earth music studio so we can do a comparison. But thank you very much, Terrell, for not only giving us a fabulous rammed earth splayed wall music studio, but causing probably at least 4 extra months in the rest of the construction because that 8 degrees was hell. It was totally worth
Are
it.
you talking out of plumb or out of square?
So the walls splay out slightly.
When
Yeah.
you tested in your own house, it's 2 boxes that should be parallel if you built them right, that were slayed from each other. So just put the drums into another room, test it out.
Yeah.
Move the drums into the master.
That got a
Okay.
bit spicy.
Wow. Yeah.
Parallel.
All right. We'll test it out. We'll
I
move the
just have to
drums.
remove the current residents for long enough to run this experiment, but I will 100% do that.
Okay. I think we had a question in the back, but maybe it was just you couldn't hear Terrell.
You could have that plumbing, sloping wall up as you went up.
That would be equally difficult to build, possibly even harder.
That would be way harder. Yeah.
But it is a thought. No
no,
building,
no,
no
okay.
building thoughts during presentations. I
Okay.
run this risk every too often.
All right.
This is the first non-rammed earth image we have because as of yet we have not built a townhouse with rammed earth. But it's certainly a dream that we have, and if this is a townhouse and this is a rammed earth wall, that is a fire barrier. It's a completely non-combustible material, and as a sound barrier, we were just discussing 18 inches of thick rammed earth. It's
You
your
can't
neighbor
hear
could be-
anything.
Your neighbor could be running a music studio, and it wouldn't really affect you too much.
We've
But
put,
then they'd want to splay at 8 degrees, and that would really make the construction.
we've put babies down to sleep on the other side of the rammed earth wall. No problem.
What's going on the other side? With things going on the other side, like it's-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a big party with Graham drumming.
Unless you're all like new parents and like, oh my God, you put baby down to sleep? That's really impressive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. For the new parents, you'll
For
understand.
the new parents, putting babies down can be fun.
We've talked about, well, we all know about the climate crisis, and there's no way of pretending that that's not happening. Unless you live in a rammed earth house.
Oh, I didn't like that.
Oh.
We didn't do that yesterday.
Okay, sorry. Jeez. Yeah, okay. I've been telling Tim that I've been really working on my mental health. And some of that requires me to kind of retreat into my home and just say, I live here and it's okay. Unfortunately, we know that outside there are fires, there are floods, termites are moving into the area. Rammed earth is adaptive in that sense. A flood is not going to affect it. You might need to power wash the resulting whatever off the walls. When the forest fires were happening last year, we just closed the windows and sat it out. The air stayed perfectly breathable inside. If that forest fire, God forbid, should be on our doorstep, we'd do much the same thing. We've got a metal roof, close the windows, the fire can sweep over you. You could be watching it through those windows and still be okay. I've had people contact me from the West Coast talking about this exact thing. Insurance people would love it if we could replace with rammed earth the communities that have been burned out, because it was going to make their life a lot easier and cheaper in the long run too.
You know, I have children. I would like them to grow up in a world that's a nice world to live in. And I think that sort of there's the micro and the macro side to that. On a micro sense, if you live in a rammed earth home and you close your windows, the rest of the world doesn't seem as on fire as it might seem. That's the micro level. And on the macro level, yet again, I mean, I love when we're saying like, oh, preaching to the choir, and Tim says, no, it's choir practice. At this particular choir practice, we want to build in a way that is reducing the carbon emissions so that on a long term, we're just bringing down the global emissions to hopefully curb climate change, and building in ways like rammed earth is the way that we're able to see that global shift and to bring those numbers down.
So you followed us along on our imaginative journey. You've imagined a rammed earth home. You've imagined a house that is going to last maintenance-free for hundreds of years, where the inhabitants can breathe comfortably and safely for all of those years. The performance of the building doesn't change for all of those years, that it remains as low energy as the day that you built it, as the walls are unchanged for the whole time. And I'd love for everybody to live in a rammed earth house. At the moment, our houses tend to look like this one. Or mine, crazy big. When I said to Terrell, it's just Steve and I, but it has to have a wow factor. I didn't realize that it was going to mean that we built like way too big, and everybody builds way too big. And one of the first things that we tell all of our clients is, you don't need it to be that big, and you don't need it to be that fancy. You just need to be there and enjoy what you've got with your rammed earth.
This particular home was built in 2015, also designed by Terrell, and the engineering was done by Tim on this particular one. And every time we go and visit them, they really do embody sort of a very sustainable lifestyle. The garden just keeps getting more beautiful and more full of things.
And their honey is great.
Their honey is great, and
the eggs.
The free-range chickens are just anyway. It's this is a great image to just kind of show how a restorative, regenerative lifestyle and rammed earth can really fit hand in hand.
Yeah.
So if you click on a particular slide,
that?
then it goes to that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. I'm going to not
I think
touch
if you don't
that.
touch it, it's probably
Okay,
best.
Good.
Yeah. So, hey, what is rammed earth? How is it built? If only there was somebody who has done it to explain. Typical concrete forming, nothing reinventing the wheel with that. Generally speaking, rammed earth can be built up to 4 stories with the engineering style that we use now, and I'm sure that Tim could explain how it can be done higher. Yep. But, yet again, need somebody to want to build something that big. I want to build it for them, but that's 2 sides of it. So strong back whaler, and then the form ply. Really important to make sure all your form lines are nice and crisp and uniform, because they do show, and the more uniform they are, the less they show, if that makes sense. Like, they're always going to be a part of the wall, but you're able to kind of tune them out if it's less of a staggered thing. So then once the form is constructed, then...
Wow, it worked.
Hey, no sound. That's
Excellent.
great. This is even better. So then we put it into a mixer. You can see there that we, as I mentioned before, that's just essentially a gravel, a little bit of Portland, a waterproofing agent, and then colors can be as muted or as dramatic as you want them to be. Once this has been mixed, it's then delivered into the wall. The finish is all within the delivery method within it. So if you're wanting it to be, I'm getting too specific, there are ways to create different looks and different feels within the rammed earth, and you express that to your very capable rammed earth builder, and they do what you ask them to do.
They all perform the same.
They all perform the same regardless of the look. We were talking earlier. So this would be, somebody has expressed that, like, I really like the red look to it, and then we will just add, we do all of our color creation through weight. So that allows it to just scale. We know that, okay, we made this much for a color sample. When we make this much, we just multiply the math out. And that means that hitting that color exactly is fine regardless of how much of the rammed earth we're making. So we scale it appropriately. This is very typical. We like to make, within the color palette about 16. There is a question at the back.
I just noticed that some of them seem to have stack. Is that true? Like
No, they don't sag, but they were made that way. Remember, you don't see what you're doing. You're inside a box, and that's the same inside the wall. So how you deliver can be, if you want it to be very flat, you have to work at getting it very flat. We kind of like a more organic feel where you drop the dirt in and see what happens, and it can be quite wavy and different that way.
And the difficulty, especially when we actually brought a color sample, which was supposed to be part of our presentation, but I don't know if I was supposed to hold it the whole time. It's pretty heavy. We can look at it later, but essentially it's a 2x4 thick, so it's very difficult in creating these to get rid of that sag look to it. Whereas in a full wall, you have a really good sense of, hey, it's doing this, and then I'm following that, and that's going to, when I compact that, have that same organic feel throughout, or that looks really flat, and maybe it's too flat, let's put a little more here and a little more there. Yet again, within just a color sample, it's very difficult to actually manipulate it to be fully flat. Also, typically we're building on a proper foundation. These are just pieces of plywood, so that also might add to the illusion or the feel of it sagging because it's not nearly engineered to withstand ramming pressure in that kind of way. But yeah, so once a color has been established, typically we recommend, depending on the busyness of the wall, we tend to recommend somewhere between 2 and 6 colors. And, possibly you want to use a really dramatic one as an accent here and there, and then you want your sort of more basic look to be a little more muted. Yet again, we kind of like to give, this is the color, this is the palette, what are you feeling as far as the freeform art that's being created from that.
Does the color fade at all over time?
No, the iron oxides do not, as of what we've learned to this point, have no fade. It will look darker as soon as the form comes off than it will a week later, but the week later to, by our, as far as we know at this point, 15 years, there's been no fade within that. Chemically, there's no reason the iron oxides should fade, so we can pretty safely say they don't, but yet again, we're talking about a product that is 500 to 1,000 years old, and I'm not sure that they were using iron oxides when they built elements of the Great Wall of China, so it's hard to say, but we are pretty confident that there will be no fading in that. I'm sure I was talking over Sam running the tamper, but this is a pneumatic tamper. This is a good sense of the form. You're not allowed to be claustrophobic. A fear of heights is also a real drawback in being a rammed earth worker. So this is a 20-inch form. The structural rebar, yet again, that is the insulation running down the middle of it, and we do connect those whenever our engineer tells us to. For the structural elements of it, and then this is how you really get to see that there are 2 separate walls being constructed at the same time, but because we're putting the same mix on either side of the insulation, it really mirrors and looks like one cohesive wall from side to side, interior and exterior. Yes?
Are they standing on insulation?
Yeah. Which is, all right, I'm going to just go back because this is a really cool time lapse. So, yes, so you can stand in the insulation. You can also, it is actually kind of interesting to stand on the rammed earth that you're tamping as well, because there are a lot of different ways to tell when you've properly compacted. One is by sound, which luckily for us we can't hear because it's really loud and it's somewhat annoying, quite abrasive. But there's a different quality when you're tamping between and when you're at the second one, you've hit it as far as getting the compaction, and you don't want to hit it for too long because then you've overly compacted it, and if you haven't got that sound, you've under compacted it. I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. because it's slightly complicated.
It's actually really fun. You are listening for it, but you're also, as Graham says, kind of feeling for it too. And we have a question.
Well, you mentioned over-compaction. What's the problem with compacting too much?
Tim, what's the problem with overcompacted rammed earth? So I don't sound like an idiot. Thank you.
You can get past the optimum density. You can get to a too high a density. Also, you could almost get what's the right word? It's
With tech,
Yeah.
like subluxation.
yes, exactly. So I want to say that it's something that it's almost like when a surfactant is in play and things slip too much. It's because you do have there's a lot of clays, there's a lot of fine particles in there. So there is an optimum density, and it is when you get there tends to be a pinging sound, and if you go past that, it gets really muddy.
This is something that we noted. My house was the first one that we built, and we definitely, there are layers you can see. This one was over compacted. So come and visit my house, and I will show you what the problem is.
And I wouldn't say it's fatal by any means.
No.
No,
It's
the wall doesn't fall down.
From aesthetic purposes, also from an aesthetic perspective, if you're going for a wave but you've overcompacted, it's going to flatten the whole look as well, just because the movement you're creating with how you're delivering the material into the wall will totally get flattened out the more you've tamped it. So that's another side of it. I know that Tim told me not to overcompact, and this is being recorded so I can actually maybe understand what Tim just said so that I could explain it. If Tim's not in the room, next time I'm explaining it to somebody.
Jasper.
Yeah, or a Jasper. Here we go. Perfect. Then after it's been formed, it's been rammed, then the best day of every rammed earth builder's job is you get to unveil the art that you've been blood, sweat, and tearing over to create for the last few weeks or months, or depending on the size of the project. So this is, it is a really wonderful moment. I'm not a visual artist, but I kind of get the sense that, most people when they're creating visual art are looking at what they're doing while they're creating it, and they're able to be like, I like that, I should add to that. Whereas you're kind of painting behind a curtain in a medium that you think, like, I know the medium well, but I'm, I think that's going to look good. And then you take the form off and you're like, oh, that did look really good, usually.
And we have workers who love what they do and live for this moment as well. I mean, it's fun to ram, but wow, what a sense of satisfaction when you get to actually see it.
And from something to consider is once these forms go off, this wall is not going to change for hundreds, possibly thousands of years, as we noted, but also this is the framing of your wall. This is a completely incorruptible air barrier inside, outside. This is whatever you've put as your exterior cladding. This is whatever you have as your insulation. This is what you have as your interior cladding. This is all the way down to the paint. It's one stop. Once this is off, this is your wall. This is your wall forever. This is your legacy walls forever. Anyway, just something to consider.
That you never have to paint.
That you never have to paint. But if you want to, you can. There's a question
just
for the record.
don't
Just
ever tell me about it.
I don't want to hear about it. Can you make it public? Can you make it private to me so I don't know? I will cry.
We'd like to change the direction of this. We've noted that so far we have built overly large custom homes for individual families. This isn't where our heart lies. We want to have rammed earth communities. We want to have whole eco-villages built with rammed earth. So we'd like us all to start thinking about what that would feel like, what that would look like, how that would experience. Oh, I can't touch it.
Go ahead. It's just clicking.
I don't know.
Lots of things.
So we're actually in a process right now of working with Indigenous community. And they are just at the very, very starting process of this. They're in a housing crisis, as every single Indigenous community in this country is. And they've been having to deal with that crisis by getting in yet another modular home, and another, and a few more. And those modular homes that they got 5 years ago are already full of mold. They know that they can't keep this up. This is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And we've been talking to them about building rammed earth, and we're just checking off all the boxes. It's connected to the earth. It is something that is maintenance-free, fireproof, because of course fire is another big issue. It's hitting all the boxes. And they said, okay, so can you just come up with something that you could build for us? And we said, no. You have to come up with the thing that we will teach you how to build. We have a skill here that we are delighted to pass on. We want everybody to know how to do this for themselves. And only you, the community, know what you need.
Within those community needs, low-rise apartments, single-family dwellings,
Townhomes.
those are the words I'm looking for, thank you. All of this can be done within rammed earth. Neither this nor that is actually rammed earth, but you're getting a sense of, yet again, it doesn't matter how big you make your thermal envelope, you're just increasing the thermal flywheel effect, even if you're going to a large apartment at that point. So your neighbor having a party in the middle of January is going to help reduce your heating cost as well because of the BTUs contributing to it, et cetera. So it's, there are many, many ways that rammed earth can be used, and we're really excited and hopeful to expand what Aerecura is doing to kind of bring that to the fore within the built environment for sure.
So the middle one, by the way, is my house.
Half of it.
It's a small section. We mentioned how much bigger it was than it should be. Wait, we've got a question.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Could it function kind of like a concrete wall? Like if you were to,
Does it function like a concrete wall? I'm going to definitely address this because it is not
I
concrete.
don't think he's asking the question yet. Maybe get out of his mouth.
if you didn't necessarily care about the aesthetics, could you just build walls with dirt, basically? And flat it on either one side or the other if you want to insulate the core. Just curious.
It's pretty much the exact same amount of work to erect a full form. So like, if you're talking about like, could I just build half of it in rammed earth and then like insulate it and go from there? I think that it actually functions. You're cutting out the thermal mass to have insulated it, not in the center of it. And adding insulation to the walls is like a very minor cost and minor part to the whole process. So it just makes sense to keep the insulation internal to all of it, and then allows it to function better. The breathability aspects are significantly better than concrete.
It also has about 2.5 times the ability to absorb and retain heat that concrete does.
And yeah, and then from a the use of cement perspective, I think we're
at about 5%, and an ordinary concrete wall would be about 20 to 30%.
Well,
Portland.
I just wanted to, it could just be like a replacement, I guess.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. Like, I think as far as what a typical apartment would do as far as like, this is my fireproof barrier concrete wall, absolutely, just putting rammed earth into that is the goal as we see it.
Okay, I've got Deirdre over here.
I think you just answered this, but you said 2 to 3% is the cement content in a structural, or 2 to 5?
5%, about 5%.
Yeah, right.
8% for Tim.
Yeah.
As far as he's concerned, we're at 8%.
As far as we're concerned, we hit Tim's numbers.
Yes.
You're saying 8 and you're saying.
We go for the performance code thing. It hits the crush test. And remember, those crush tests were designed for concrete, not for rammed earth. So all those surface effect issues that concrete doesn't care about, but we do. So we suspect that when we're hitting Tim's numbers, we're actually hitting Tim's numbers out of the park. That's what we go on.
Okay. Yeah, and it's 8 inches with a 2x2 vertical and horizontal.
No, Tim has got us down
it's
to
four-
like
it's 4 by-
4
yeah.
feet.
Oh,
And then
8 feet in some
there's
places.
no horizontal other than over top of a window lintel at this point, as far as horizontal. And then we do have like a length of rebar every 4 feet, like probably twice within the wall, that acts as an inter-wave connector, but that's a fiberglass rebar.
okay.
So to kind of, I think, extrapolate on your question and add to it, there is a particular resin we're looking into using. And yet again, if I had any budget and any time to dedicate to it, the resin should be able to replace cement
No,
entirely.
reduce the cement.
Is it reduced, not replaced?
We're not sure. We haven't been
Yet
able to
again,
get to that R&D yet.
The end goal for us is that if this resin could replace cement, it would also, should also replace the waterproofing agent that we use within it.
That currently comes from Australia.
So that,
So,
like,
that would be.
to say that-
And this is made here in Waterloo,
Yeah.
actually, this bioresin that we're
there are
very excited
absolutely
about.
holes in our game, and within, like being a small company getting going, like we're aware of the holes. It's just when
Things like
when you see the
profit.
holes coming and you're one person, you can't always put your finger in all of the holes as they happen. But yeah,
Okay, we've got a couple of other questions here. I'll go with the back, yep.
Yeah, I had two probably short questions. One was just wondering what alternative binders you were using, and sounds like a bioresin
Yeah.
from Waterloo. Won't get into specifics. I saw a bunch of, unless you're willing to provide that, but
Not yet.
yeah.
Next year.
I have some papers that I should share with you about like tannins and chitosans and different things that have been used with Ramberg.
Excellent, yeah.
I'm happy to share.
that would be amazing. Thank you.
And then I'm also curious if you've ever built any walls below grade. I've seen some.
Yeah.
This right here, grade, this is 8 feet. There's 8 feet of rammed below this line right here.
Okay.
So this is a walkout basement. Because of the waterproof agent within the rammed earth, you can backfill up. You will still want to add a dimple drain,
Yep.
just to make sure that the water has somewhere to go, but you don't need to seal the rammed earth further to just backfill right up against it.
Okay.
We do have like 3 more slides and then a question period, but like I also am, are we good on time?
What's our
That's just what I was gonna check.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll just keep going.
like,
We would like to point out that,
Rammed earth is neat.
yeah, okay.
Rammed earth is really neat. This is Nepal.
No, you went back.
I
Okay,
missed the one
I do
in
this.
Nepal.
All right, so this is a hospital in Nepal where they built with rammed earth, and the article said that people healed better.
Aerecura are not doctors. We do not actually know. We cannot in any way say this. Small thing.
However, how cool
No, I
is that?
believe it fully, 100%.
Okay, do I click again? No. I did it again. Wrong. And this one,
This is a daycare center. That's the Eiffel Tower. So I think that kind of puts the geographical pin pretty well.
I know I want my grandchildren to go to school in a place where not only do they get to live in a healthy environment while they're at school, but their little running BTUs are all you need to heat the building. Okay, so step back and be the school board trustee where you're thinking, we have to build a new school. After we build that school, we're going to have to heat that school. We're going to have to actually think about cooling that school, which in Ontario is a kind of a radical notion anyway, because heat is killing people and students and teachers.
And you've built into your operational budget, and we're probably going to need to redo X in 30 years.
And
If
we've
that's
got a
random
maintenance
structure, yeah.
budget and so on. What if you could grab all of those other budget items from the future and put them into building it right in the first place? Oh, okay.
But we have to,
We have to wrap
yeah,
up
we
here.
have to wrap. Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty. Imagine having like rammed earth on your walk in the garden. That'd be nice. This would also work really well as
Greenhouses?
a greenhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Great for the thermal mass. Ooh, coffee. This is just pretty. We can all face facts. That's just a objectively.
We didn't build this,
didn't
but
build
man,
this,
we
but I
want to.
Absolutely. Actually, I think the rammed earth itself is kind of okay. I think we could do better rammed earth than that. But man, what a cool structure. Hey, this is a map. We can do like a, wouldn't it be neat if we're putting rammed earth in Ontario on the map? Good pun. Bam. What a presentation. We have as many, time for as many questions as Tim will let us have.
Just speaking further to like the community and the schools you mentioned, I wonder like where's your capacity, or I guess where you're seeing the community capacity, like schools.
If somebody wanted us to build a rammed earth school, we would make that happen. And the thing about it is we need skilled people. Rammed earth, as Graham says, is not rocket science. It's just good building science. But in fact, it's more of a craft. When you're in there, if you're a worker, you need to listen and feel to know when you've compressed it properly. That's just sort of a kinesthetic sense that people have. They don't need any special training other than being able to form something accurately and have a sense of how to mix and how to ram. Like, it's not that difficult to do. We could ramp up quite quickly if the demand were there.
Within, in 2019, we had one project manager in Aerecura, and we had, when we were absolutely our most employed people, I think we had 7 employees. We are now at 4 project managers, and last year we had 20 employees at our largest size. A project manager probably needs 1 or 2 people who have done it before, and then taking on 50% of a new workforce to figure it out is definitely not impossible. So from a scaling perspective, we're poised, we're ready. We are wanting to be getting every community.
Let's make it happen. Yep.
It's a more technical question, but it relates also to the question of longevity. So the 100-year-old buildings we have around here are often brick and beam, and they've been retrofitted many times. How do you handle wiring, and how will you retrofit them?
Yeah, excellent choice of question. How do we handle running services with the rammed earth? And we know that we can and have put conduit in the rammed earth walls, but think of how electricity has changed over, well, certainly my lifetime. And you can't, I shouldn't be doing that. You can't put something that's going to last 50 years in a building that's going to last for 500 to 1,000 years. It doesn't make sense. What we recommend is build your envelope. Focus on the envelope, folks. Yes, focus on the envelope. Inside, I don't care. Do whatever you like. Stick frame it up. You can do whatever you want. Build it with curtains. And that's where you put your services. Maybe not in the curtains. But that's the logical place to put things that are going to change over the life of the building.
And electricians and plumbers, for the most part, are used to running through a typical interior wall. It lends itself really well within rammed earth to do that. And then yet again, as far as retrofitting or changing your envelope will stay the same because it's very difficult to move that. But you can then say, I want this wall to go here, and I completely want my kitchen to go on the other side of the house. You can really gut the whole thing, and then that also allows a lot of mechanical flexibility. But as far as running things through the wall, we would run wires with conduit. You can do that. It is a huge pain in the butt for everyone involved, and it does set it in stone. And as Sylvia's saying, when everything is going wireless in the next 70 years, and the walls are going to outlast that by a few centuries, it's going to seem pretty dated.
I think we've got David ready to tell us more, and I'm really sorry that we can't take any more questions, but we're here. So come and ask us questions, and we'll be happy to talk about more.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.